This 13-year-old boy came to the NBA arena for the first time, and suddenly he wanted to play a one-on-one game with the Cavaliers star. At first, the audience couldn't help but think that this little boy, who was only 5 feet 3 inches, would be brutalized by his opponent. The staff even set up a camera in advance to record his embarrassing moment. Before the game started, the host even told the star not to embarrass the kid by letting him shoot twice. The star then asked the boy if he was ready, and Kevin said he had to tie his shoes first. Tracy threw the ball to Kevin and put his hand on his forehead to provoke him. But the next moment, Kevin stepped over Tracy and scored. Although Tracy was careless and Kevin scored a goal, Tracy still did not care about it. He was sure that the boy in front of him was just lucky, and said to his face, "You can't get past me with that kind of dribbling." Then Kevin suddenly made a crossover step, levitated back and scored directly in front of Tracy. Now Tracy's face was completely embarrassed. He angrily ripped off his jacket, ready to let the kid in front of him to see what is the NBA level of defense. Kevin decided not to hold back his strength. He kept dribbling and mobilized Tracy. Then the next second he threw the ball and hit the boards. Kevin flew up in the air and dunked the ball directly into the air. Tracy and the crowd were stunned, and then the scene erupted in thunderous applause. Everyone never thought that this little boy could actually shut down the Cavaliers' leading scorer. But in fact, only Kevin himself knows that it all started with a pair of sneakers on his feet. Originally, he was just an ordinary kid in an orphanage whose favorite thing to do every day was to go out and play ball with his buddies. However, his rival was always looking for trouble and often used his jersey as a wager to fight with him. But when his rival won, he tore off his jersey in front of Kevin. For the sake of life, Kevin chose to tolerate the situation, thinking that sooner or later he would be adopted by a family like the harmonious families in front of the TV, and then he would have at least 5 new jerseys. However, the reality is often more difficult to make ends meet, and at night he and his friends went out to sell candy. At first, no one on the street wanted to pay attention to them, but unexpectedly, Kevin ran into the head coach of the Cavaliers. He rushed forward to discuss with the coach about the team's formation, telling him how to arrange the players on the field so as not to lose the game. The coach was instantly interested, so he gave him a couple of tickets for the Cavaliers' home game on Sunday and told him to pick them up at the reservation window. The next day Kevin was excited to share with his friends when the nuns at the orphanage suddenly came over and brought out some donated goods, including a pair of worn-out sneakers that caught Kevin's attention. Kevin asked the nun where the shoes came from, and she didn't know at first, but she heard someone say they were worn by a tall, bald basketball player when he was a kid. Kevin was a little excited and began to look for something special about the shoes, but to his surprise, he found Jordan's initials. When his rival heard about it, he immediately ran over to grab it, but when he got it, he threw it to a pole in disgust. Kevin was devastated, so he had a bold idea. His sleeping friend and went outside to a power pole. The boy then managed to climb a nearby tree with the help of his friend's hands, in order to get his hands on the sneakers worn by the star. He reached out to the edge of the tree, desperately trying to get his hands on them, but then the storm suddenly got worse and he could only try to stabilize his weight, which was about to go out of control. And then he grabbed at the right moment. He thought he had it in the bag, but just as he was about to reach his sneakers, a bolt of lightning struck them along a power line, leaving him unharmed. The next day, Kevin went to the reservation window to pick up his Cavaliers tickets as if nothing had happened. The next day, Kevin went to the reservation window to pick up his Cavaliers tickets as if nothing had happened, when his nemesis saw him and told him to report him. Then during the Cavaliers' end-of-game show, he was accidentally drawn to play against the Cavaliers' star of the game. At first, everyone didn't think much of him, but Kevin won over the crowd with a series of unbelievable performances. The owner of the Cavaliers approached the director of the orphanage and offered to sign Kevin to play for the Cavaliers for a very high price. The director of the orphanage was instantly impressed, but he was still serious, saying that as Kevin's current guardian, I had to make sure that no one took advantage of him. But then the Cavaliers owner's money was on the line, and the dean quickly fell in line and agreed with a smile on his face. And so it was that at the tender age of 13, 6'3", Kevin joined the Cavaliers. However, the team's boss, Tracy, didn't seem to like Kevin. After all, Kevin had humiliated him in a previous one-on-one fight. Then the boss came over and handed Kevin his Cavaliers uniform and said, "You'll be able to change out of your old shoes and put on these new shirts and pants." Then in the Cavaliers game against the Spurs, the coach put Kevin, the strongest player, on the bench because he hadn't seen him play, so the coach didn't trust him. Kevin thought he had no chance to play, but when the score of the two teams were constantly being increased, the coach could not help but call a timeout to prepare for a tactical arrangement. At this time, Kevin took the initiative to propose the use of a 2-pass and run game. After Kevin explained in detail, the coach thought it was a good idea and decided to adopt it. But some people did not want to implement the tactics designed by this kid, so the coach asked Kevin to carry out the tactics and go on the court to shoot the ball. However, after Kevin got on the court, he was embarrassed to realize that he didn't wear the magic shoes, so he could only desperately flick the ball to his teammates and keep passing the ball. Kevin had no choice but to call a timeout and run back to the locker room on the pretext of going to the restroom. The boy put on his own sneakers and came back strong. He broke through the opponent's defense and scored layups and performed all kinds of difficult dunks. The center of the night's arena was completely abuzz with excitement. They could not imagine that this 137-meter kid could have such an explosive performance. Under Kevin's leadership, the huge gap between the two teams began to shrink, although in the long man in the NBA game. But Kevin can ignore the defense randomly we frequently score. At the last crucial moment, Kevin made a fake move to shake off the opponent and successfully completed the amazing whistling shutout. In an instant, the long-suppressed arena was filled with the sound of the clouds, and Kevin became the hero of Cleveland. All the news media reported that Kevin's performance was unprecedented. Only 37 meters tall, he could lead the Cavaliers down to take down the Spurs in one fell swoop. Although the outside world is very high praise for Kevin, but he did not let the arrogance of seeing his idol Iverson. He would go up to ask for an autograph, but Iverson laughed at his look like a mascot. Kevin did not say anything after hearing this, but used Iverson's signature move to change direction to shake the other side, and then directly defied gravity to perform a two-handed dunk. And the season's strongest MVP was reduced to the background plate. Then against the Bucks in the game against the master passer Kid's trash talk attack, he used his high IQ to tease Kid to send double-digit assists. Morning openly taunted him before the game that he was too small and would be stepped on. Kevin fought with him for the ball on the floor, and then overpowered the other team to get the ball on the jump ball. Then, against the Magic, he was on Matty's back from the serve, and made one steal after another. So Kevin's fame and reputation grew higher and higher every time after the game. There will be a crowd of reporters to come over to interview. Even the German chariot Norwegian and the wind son of Nash asked him for autographs. Afterwards, Kevin participated in the NBA All-Star Slam Dunk Contest and won the championship over Jason Richardson Francis and other top dunkers at that time. With his performance, Kevin was able to get the orphanage a substantial donation and funding, while Kevin had to move out of the orphanage to play with the Cavaliers elsewhere. This weekend the Cavaliers and the Toronto Raptors have a crucial matchup that both teams must win if they want to make it to the playoffs, so there's no room for error. At this point, the director of the orphanage knew that he would not be able to keep Kevin for a long time, so in order to drain Kevin's residual value, he learned from Kevin's nemesis that Kevin had a pair of magic shoes on his feet, so he compelled a few people to coerce Kevin's friends to find out the whereabouts of the magic shoes and then bet his entire fortune on the Knights to lose the game. He was sure that without the magic shoes, Kevin would make the Knights lose the game. Luckily, Kevin realized this in time. He rushed back to the orphanage and gathered a bunch of friends with his power of appeal. Then they swarmed over the dean while he was watching the game and held him at bay. At first, the dean refused to tell him the combination to the safe, but he never expected that Kevin's archenemy, Fatty, had secretly memorized the combination to the safe, and that he would betray the dean and help Kevin to win the sneakers under Kevin's persuasive words. But just as several people rushed to the ballroom, the dean even broke free and informed several bodyguards to intercept. But Kevin, with his excellent driving skills and dexterous identity, dodged all the obstacles and arrived at the stadium without any danger. However, the team had already finished 3/4 of play. They were 21 points behind the Raptors. However, at this point the team has already 3/4 of play. They are fully 21 points behind the Raptors. Originally the Knights almost have no hope of turning the tide, but when Kevin came out of the players' corridor, the long silent ballroom once again boiling water like boiling water. At first, the coach was furious at his tardy behavior and was going to bench him to reflect on the situation. But this time Tracy stood firmly next to Kevin and said sincerely, "Coach, we wouldn't have made it this far without Kevin, and we need to put him on the court, because we're a united team." The other teammates also echoed. The coach could not resist, so he agreed to let Kevin play. As soon as Kevin came on the court, he showed his scoring ability. The opponent's defense was no match for him. All kinds of passes with his teammates were fascinating. Whether it was a breakthrough or coming up, he was very comfortable in the matchup with the half-human, half-god Carter. He even relied on his absolute strength to steadily overwhelm the other side. Finally, in the last 19 seconds, the two teams were trailed by only 1 point. In order to get the hard-earned victory, Kevin stuck to Carter and miraculously stole the basketball from his opponent when he was dribbling. But due to his own excessive force, the magic shoes on his feet also broke in two at that moment. Tracy seemed to see the point and encouraged Kevin to be brave. "The team needs you right now, not the shoe." Kevin came to his senses, and on the final possession he received a pass from his teammate, and although his shot was blocked by Carter, Tracy was able to steal the ball, and then he passed it back to Kevin again. Kevin smoothed a fake move point fly defense by his own deterrent attracted 3 people to pass to the open Tracy.